Hi, today we're going to talk about how to declutter your home for simple living. First, I'm going to talk a little bit about minimalism and how that connects to living. Then, I'm going to define simple living and talk about some of the aspects of it. Next, I'm going to give some concrete strategies on how to declutter for simple living. And lastly, we're going to wrap up with talking about what to do if you're struggling. So, kind of the pitfall and how to overcome that. So, you're going to want to stay on for that. So, to get started, I just wanted to touch base on minimalism. That's actually how I got into home organizing. I actually really started by loving the minimalism movement, and I used to watch the tiny house show. There was like a reality TV show. It was two guys. There was kind of a host who would interact with the family and the builder, and they would put together a tiny house nation. And they would put together the tiny house for the family. And my favorite parts were when they were getting the family to pare down. And then also at the end, there was usually like a minute or two follow up where they went back and visited the families like 5 or 6 months later and said, "How is it going?" And I loved hearing what they said and how simplified their lives were. And so I think minimalism really connects. If you're looking for simple living, it's just less. I think that we have accumulated so many items and we don't realize how much time and energy and headspace they are taking up. I love to think about vacation life also similarly. I think when you go on vacation, part of it is you're in a clean space, there's no things there, and so a lot of that mental load is gone. So I just think, how can we bring more vacation life into our everyday life? That's what I want. So thinking about simple living, what does that mean and kind of how does it connect with minimalism just a little bit more? So when I think of simple living, I'm thinking of slow, right? We're not rushing from here to there. We're slowing down. It's easy. It's not a lot of frustration. It's not a lot of friction. It's ease. It's being able to do the things you want to do, having sufficient time to do them, room and time, both in your space, but I think also in your schedule. For me, I love to putter. If you have time to just putter and, kind of do nothing or do whatever strikes you and the time just feels to expand, like it's expanding, that to me is simple living. I think there's a lot about your schedule that contributes. And Courtney Carver is a wonderful writer, and she talks a lot about simple living. One of her sayings is, if you have time to catch up, like that's not free time, it's just catching up, right? So it's something to think about. If you get, half a day where maybe your kids are gone or you're off of work or whatever, and then you're just like catching up on things, that's not free time, right? So I think that simple living is more free time. Just saying no to things that your heart doesn't want to do, that's going to free up more time in your schedule, just reducing the number of commitments you have. And then also habits, day-to-day habits, I think can affect things like at first when I decluttered, we didn't really have great habits, like the dishes wouldn't get done regularly. And so even though our home was decluttered, it still felt cluttered and messy because the dishes were always dirty. So I think there's sort of a combination of decluttering and habits that really contributes to simple living. So that's something to think about. I want to get into some of the strategies. So I am a big follower of Joshua Becker, the minimalist, and he has an online course that I went through a couple times to declutter. So one of the first things to do is sort of identify your why And I'm not sure, for me, that wasn't very important, but I think for some people it is really important. It's like, what's the end goal? What's the vision? Why are you doing this? And sometimes determining that can be extremely motivating for people. And when you get sort of disillusioned or disappointed, you can remind yourself of that. Why am I doing this? And kind of bring that, and it can refocus you and re-inspire you. So one strategy is to just like get a trash bag and start. I think one of the pitfalls for decluttering is thinking or listening or reading too much about it. You just have to do it. And that's the hard thing. It's the hard thing for many projects and doing things, right? It's getting started. It's getting over that initial hump. So he's like, get a trash bag, set a timer, and just look for trash. Just walk around your house looking for trash. That's a great start. And maybe that's enough for today. And then tomorrow you can go do another area. He really encourages less, right? So just like being ruthless, having less. There's probably many items in your home that you could live without, and it's probably a more creative and interesting life with a few less of those things and more comfortable, and the simple living will come into play. So he also, you can do it different ways. You can go room by room. You can go category by category. Like, I'm going to do all the books. So you might have books in several places in your home, but I'm going to go through all the books next. That would be category by category. I'm going to do all the office supplies. I'm going to do all the kitchen items. So you can kind of choose maybe room by room or category by category. There's two guys together. I'm going to say Nicholas Milburn and a second guy. Should know their names. But together, they're called the Minimalists. And they have some movies. They have a lot of stuff out there. But they have this strategy where you box up everything. This is kind of like young single men, I think. But boxed up everything in their apartment or, home, and only, for like a month or two, only took out the things they actually needed. And then at the end of that time period, kind of said, I guess we don't need what else is in these boxes, and we're going to get rid of it. So that's obviously very extreme. It is extreme. But if you're looking for an extreme makeover or a change in your life, maybe you want to try something like that. Maybe you want to look at, I'm obviously in my home office. Maybe you want to look at your desk and say, I'm going to box up all this extra stuff and just see if I miss it. After 30 days, if you haven't looked for it or needed it, probably don't need it unless it's something you maybe only use once a year, right? And how important is it? Can you use something else instead of that item? I love another kind of tip from Joshua Becker is experiment with less. So we all know, or certainly if you're listening to this video, we know what it feels like to have too much. We know when you open the linen closet and the items come falling out on you, and you open your personal closet or your dresser drawer and you're trying to find your favorite socks or underwear and you can't find it because the drawer is stuffed and things are popping out and you can't see what you have. We know what it feels like to have too much. We know that feeling. So you're trying to find this balance beam, right? Everything is, in balance, a bell curve. So you have to sort of experiment with the other side of having too little. And it's just an experiment, right? We're not hopefully living in poverty. We're hopefully not experiencing great need where we don't have enough. And so you want to experiment with having less. Hey, a great example is in our refrigerator. I want to have food there, but I want a smaller amount because then I can see what's there and really use up what's left. My husband, there's when we get to 50%, he was running to the store, whereas I'm like, this is perfect. So there's just different styles, right? Just like someone likes spaghetti and they like Parmesan cheese and someone else doesn't like spaghetti or they like spaghetti without Parmesan. I think there's just different flavors of how people like things, how much people like, what makes them feel comfortable. And so experimenting with less, even in small categories, to find what's the balance beam. Okay, I got rid of all the underwear I didn't like, and now I seriously do not have enough underwear. Okay, I'm going to go buy 3 more pairs. Not 20 more pairs, but 3 more pairs. And I'm like, I do laundry once a week. It's perfect. So you want to find those balancing points. That's going to help with the simple living. So one other thing I wanted to say about the strategies, it is like peeling an onion. When you go through a room, you are going to get rid of everything that you think you don't need. And you're going to be like, I got rid of everything. And then if you circle back a month later, and sometimes it's, a little less or a little longer, but you are going to have fresh eyes and you'll have been paying attention and you'll be like, this thing that I thought I was going to reach for, I never reached for that. And you will be able to get rid of more and more. So I probably decluttered my house 3 or 4 times over and getting rid of more and more. And I'm sure we got rid of thousands of items. This is when my son was quite little, and now he just turned 13, and items have built up again. It's built up again. We're ready for some strong decluttering. So just to know that, like, whatever progress you make, even if it's not totally satisfactory, you can circle back in a future moment, and you'll probably be ready to get rid of more. I wanted to talk about the pitfall of, like, what if it's not working? You've decluttered your home. You're like, I've decluttered everything I can. I've gotten rid of everything I can. I don't feel like I have simple living. So I would encourage you to circle back. Like, is it your schedule? Is it maybe some of the habits? Rooms can look messy, but if you can pick up within a matter of 5 minutes, you're probably in good shape, right? If it's taking a long time to pick up, or you decluttered, but there's just more and more coming in, that's the other thing you need to look at. The other side of the coin is what's coming into the home. Are you or someone else filling the home back up with stuff? And that's a tough question. You may even know the answer, or you may not have realized, right? Are you or someone else shopping, bringing items in, and so your decluttering work is sort of being sabotaged because it's filling up again. We are a consumerist society, and so if you're not paying attention, or if you're not having things exit, more and more coming in, it's just going to build up again. So that's sort of the pitfall to watch out for. And I think a lot of this stuff, once your eyes are open to it, you can begin to make changes because you are all smart out there. It's just having that initial insight, maybe thinking about things a little bit differently. So I hope that is helpful, and I would love to hear how it's going as you search for simple living.